Gentlemen, I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled public hearing session of the Historic Preservation Commission of Annapolis. We have a quorum present. Two commissioners have notified us that they will, one will definitely not be present, another is unlikely to be present. So will the secretary call the roll, please?
Dr. Scott.
Present.
Mr. Williams.
Present.
Ms. Golder.
Present.
Mr. Cummins.
Present.
Mr. Groff.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we are not expecting Ms. Bannon or Mr.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Are there any announcements by the staff?
For those who are interested, I suggest stopping by the Pip Moyer Center and taking a look at the Perrin Mitchell Memorial, which has just been installed and dedicated. And staff supported that dedication, that ceremony in different ways. Can't think of anything else.
Okay, thank you, John. I don't believe we received drafts of minutes from our April meetings. Did anyone receive them? Huh? No, no, 8th or 24th. Okay, well, please, yeah, send them out in time for the administrative meeting later in the month and approve there. Okay, thank you very much. All right, John, any new violations or update on significant active violations?
Well, I guess I should say that we have some very active building inspectors because a very small repair was and not very well executed, but executed on a Conduit Street in a cornice, and it received a stop work order.
Yeah.
Like,
Now,
wow.
You're being recorded, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just saying, see, the contractor called me up. He was like, well, that's new. Anyway, we'll get that sorted out. No, we were trying to get through the unraveling the specifications and getting a new direction for the stop work order violation at 86 State Circle. And that's moving in a positive direction.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Cecil? Oh, I'm sorry, I overlooked that.
It's just April 8th minutes are in the folder, but I feel like that we could that. I just want to make sure there.
Oh. Okay, all the mics are off, so if you speak, you do need to do the green light thing. Okay, but I think we can handle that at the next meeting, as I suggested. Okay, so we can move into our new business for tonight, and the first item on the agenda is 60 College Avenue, St. John's College. Will all those who are going to present to us please come forward to the table and make sure you identify yourself and turn on the mic. You don't need to put on a coat for us unless you're chilly. That's right.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jim Hall. I'm an architect with Kessler Group, and I'm here on behalf of St. John's College.
And you're the sole representative that's going to speak tonight?
I'm sorry?
You're the sole representative that will speak tonight?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear that all the testimony you're going to give tonight is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do agree. Yes.
Thank you.
So I just have to ask, you put your coat on, but then was that like an Atticus Finch taking the coat off, putting it on?
It's a thing.
All right.
All right. Please forgive the interruption from the staff.
That's quite all right. Okay. Do I need to pull up? What do I need to? Pull
You need to do what you
this?
need to do to make your presentation to us.
Okay.
So
I know I've got a computer here. I've got my own computer. I guess set that up with the presentation on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Apologize.
We have technical staff online if you need assistance.
Do I need to use this computer, or do I use my own computer to bring up the presentation? Okay, yeah, why don't I do that?
Use that.
Point.
I got you.
This would be a point of order. There's something missing from the agenda.
What's that?
Consent docket. If we want to put anything on consent docket, it hasn't been
We'll
mentioned.
get to that.
Okay. All right.
Out of curiosity, I remember his presentation was very comprehensive, given staff recommendation. Like, does he have to go through the whole thing, or?
No.
Okay. It's very, very well done. Very comprehensive.
We're gonna let him boot up. But since you raised that question, has everybody been by the site of Mellon Hall? There's a mock-up, and okay,
Yes.
good. Well, most of us have, and we know what the site is like, and we know what the issue is. So as soon as he's set up, I'll give him one additional guide. Oh, John, was there any public comment in any form about this?
There was public comment favorable from Harry Huntley.
Okay, and it just arrived today.
Yes, recent arrival.
Okay.
There was discussion, but nothing negative.
Okay, are you set up?
Just about.
I just want to know if he's.
Okay.
Okay, before you begin, please keep in mind that there was limited public comment. The commissioners have seen the site. The staff report, have you had a chance to review that?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. So you know that really there's a limited scope of what we really need to concentrate on tonight.
Okay.
So if you want to tailor your presentation to that, it would probably expedite the whole.
Absolutely. I'll do my best to summarize and just kind of go over some of the revisions that we have created.
Great.
So once again, my name is Jim Hall. I'm an architect at Kessler Group. Thank you for this opportunity to be speaking with you today. We did present, as been kind of discussed before, this project's been reviewed back in March for a pre-application conference where we run over our initial ideas and got some great feedback on the project's feasibility. And so we have gone back and made some revisions to the presentation that we're showing today from that original pre-application. And so as I mentioned, I'll do my best to just go through those and summarize some of the other parts. Just as a brief overview, again, the original concept for the array started about 5 years ago in 2020 after a comprehensive facilities assessment St. John's conducted, looking at all 22 of their campus buildings, about 340,000 square feet of inhabitable space. That coupled with an energy audit on the existing buildings indicated that much of the campus historic buildings were falling below benchmarks that were set by the current building codes. And so St. John's took it upon themselves to try to find ways to improve their environmental impact. And one of those ways was to introduce a solar panel array on top of Mellon Hall. We originally tried to bring that forward in part of the original rehabilitation project that we were working on back in 2020, 2021. Unfortunately, that had to get removed from the scope due to a funding shortage. But then in 2024, through the use of an MEA higher education clean energy grant, we have brought that project back to include both Mellon Hall and the adjacent heating plant building.
Can you clarify what you meant by benchmarks? I think you used the term benchmarks. I guess it's
Yeah,
not
sure.
as energy efficient as it should be.
If you look at the requirements for buildings that are in new construction, there are certain energy benchmarks that are listed in various different codes from the IBC to the IECC. And obviously, being an existing building, a historic building, oftentimes those buildings fall short of those benchmarks. They're just by nature, they don't have the building envelope systems that we have today. That being said, a lot of the codes allow for exceptions or have their own separate rules when it comes to those existing buildings. And even though those are allowed to exist as what they are, again, St. John's wanted to find ways to improve their energy impact.
So what's proposed improves but doesn't meet those higher standards.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So what you're presenting improves the performance, but doesn't meet the current new standard.
That's correct. Yeah. So we're trying to improve our standards.
Yeah.
We're trying to look at the amount of energy that St. John's is using campus wide, and trying to find ways can we. Part of the grant is can we supplement what would normally be fossil fuel generated energy with something that's of a clean energy nature.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that we understood exactly
Absolutely.
what you were referring to, but thank you.
Absolutely. Again, these two buildings are obviously within the historic district of Annapolis, but they also fall under the purview of the Maryland Historical Trust. And by that I mean that both buildings are on the inventory, Maryland's inventory of historic properties. However, only Mellon Hall currently has a historic trust preservation easement on it, and that's due to various miscellaneous projects over the years, including the rehabilitation project where state funding was sought, and thus an easement was established. What that means for this project is that while the heating plant and Mellon Hall are both being reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission, only Mellon Hall also needs to go seek approval through the Maryland Historical Trust's easement committee.
Have they granted that approval?
Yes, so I'm happy to report that we presented this back in beginning of May, and at the end of May received a letter from the director stating that the project appears to be in compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards, and that the request to change or modify the easement has been approved.
Okay.
These next couple of sheets, again, kind of summarizing, we wanted to go over the various standards and guidelines that each organization utilized when reviewing regulations surrounding historic properties. And again, they're slightly different documents. However, most of them have very similar language. And indeed, you'll see a lot of repeat language in here. Would you like me to go through these? We kind of reviewed them pretty extensively during the last meeting.
Have you read the staff report? Have you read the staff?
Yes.
Have all the commissioners read the staff report? I don't think it's necessary for you to do that.
Okay, sounds good. Again, the brief histories of the buildings, just to touch on these again, Mellon Hall being originally constructed in the late 1950s and designed by the famous modernist architect Richard Neutra, from primarily most of his work being on the West Coast. I believe Mellon Hall being one of, I think, his last remaining example of architecture on the East Coast, and primarily consisting of, if you look at that exploded view in the middle, that area that's kind of in the brown tan color, consisting of the FSK lobby, the conversation room, the auditorium space, back of stage areas, two-story addition along St. John Street, that's the academic wing, and then the other academic wing that projects into the campus. And then in late 1980s, the building was again added onto by the designs of Weller, Fishback, and Bull, that you can see in the green portion of the exploded view there. They enclosed the courtyard space and created space for their administrative functions, as well as the Mitchell Gallery that projects out in front of the building. And then the last additions occurred in 2001, where they were designed by the firm Zigger Sneed. You can see in blue there. It consisted of the addition on the northwest along St. John Street, sometimes referred to as the conference room addition, as well as an infill of the canopy space in the courtyard to create what's now called the Fishbowl Cafe by St. John's. And then in 2021, obviously circling back to what was mentioned previously, the design work by David M. Schwartz Architects and in collaboration with Keslow Group for the rehabilitation efforts in several areas within the building. And then in comparing that to the heating plant, again, was built in 1951. Unfortunately, the record documentation for this building appears to be fairly limited, and we were unable to identify an architect or a designer or contractor for this building at this time. But the key note here is that from 1951 to now, this building has not seen any major renovations, alterations, or changes. The two images on the right indicate the roof sections that we were proposing solar arrays for. I did want to note that if you look at the image at the top, We had originally proposed a solar array be installed on top of the FSK lobby and conversation room space. We've since removed that, and that was due to twofold. One, part of the conversation that occurred during the pre-application conference was discussing it appeared to us that this roof might be more sensitive in terms of its historic stature, being a part of the original portion of the building. The other component was we looked at this from a structural standpoint, found that there isn't much reserve capacity left in those structural trusses. And so the ballasted roof system, the ballasted array system that we were proposing appeared to exceed what was available and would require a different mounting system that would have pushed the array taller than the 9¼ inches that we're hoping to achieve here. So ultimately remove that from the scope of the project. Again, these are the array systems that we had considered. There were the system on the left is the one that we are proposing and requesting to be used. It is, as I mentioned, a ballasted system where the arrays are placed on these racks, which are weighed down to the roof with the ballast blocks. This avoids the need to create penetrations through the roof for direct attachment to the structure, which introduces many opportunities for leaks to occur. The system on the right being what we've been calling the flat panel system, you can see in the image on the left there in that gray box, creates, all those standoffs are penetration points. You can imagine there'd be hundreds of penetrations to the roof, which introduce opportunities for leaking. Much of the roof on Mellon Hall is made out of a gypsum material. And so any kind of moisture getting through that membrane becomes detrimental to the roof. So we are proposing the system to the left. The other advantage of that system, beyond the fact that it's sloped and has better orientation to the sun for energy production, is it allows water to drain off the panels, thus preventing the buildup of dust and debris, which can cause deterioration and reduces the effectiveness of the panel themselves. But also the profile height here. On the left, we're noticing that the maximum height of the panel is about 9¼ inches, excuse me. Whereas on the right, the flat panel system, due to the flashing requirement around those penetrations, ends up pushing it up to about 11½ inches. This sheet covered basically all the components that were involved in the total photovoltaic system. One thing worth of note here is that through our review of the system and design and engineering and design of the system, we are able to items 4 and 5, which were originally noted as possibly being inside but might have to be put outside if we couldn't find a suitable place. We're happy to report that those are all going to be interior to the building. So the only elements that are going to be exterior would include the panels on the roof, the interconnecting conduit, the roof penetrations, and then the item 6, which is the non-fused panel, which acts as an emergency shutoff, which by code is required to be on the exterior. This is our updated array for Mellon Hall. And just want to give a couple of facts and figures here. So right now we're proposing 16 separate arrays equaling about 396 panels. Annually, that is calculated to produce on average about 236 kilowatts, which is about 260,000 kilowatt hours. That's the equivalent of about 410,000 pounds of CO2 avoided through the generation of that energy. And is enough energy to power about 24 single-family homes.
For a year.
Per year.
It's good to know. It's not something that can affect our decision.
It's just some interesting facts to put out there. But as you can see, we've taken these panels off of the roof of the lobby space and the conversation room. And again, as we're trying to respect that Neutra design, keeping these arrays in regular patterns, monolithically installed on the roof to the best of our ability. There's some, working around existing penetrations and equipment that occurs here, but we think that we've captured kind of those monolithic arrangements to the best of our ability. These next sheets go into detail about the specific arrays on Mellon Hall, their overall sizes, the number of panels in each each array. You'll see they're interconnected with different blue lines, meaning that's where we're proposing conduit runs. I'm getting that to a little bit later, but we've also done a study on, or tried to understand where we can place conduit in such a way as to keep their visibility as minimal as possible, to the same extent as we've been doing with the array panels themselves. We've worked very hard to try to identify routes where we can penetrate the roof and drop that conduit down into the basement and around the building and down to the backside of the building where we have our inverters. And that was not necessarily as important to this meeting, but certainly was important to the Maryland Historical Trust. So this is various sections around the building, kind of the backstage area, kind of going along St. John Street, then the other side. And then that that single-story addition penetrating, that's kind of projecting out into the campus, turned sideways because we've had put on a sheet. These are elevational studies, again, identifying what portions of the roof where we have array panels that are relatively close. So that first elevation across top being along St. John Street, and then as you turn the corner, coming into the parking lot between Mellon Hall and Packet Carroll and Campbell, which is now Edensward. And then turning the corner again from campus, looking out onto the roof there. Again, as you'll notice, we've removed the panels from the Francis Scott Key lobby space in the conversation room. And then the last elevation being from the parking lot between the heating plant and Mellon Hall. This sheet was updated slightly. Obviously, the clouded area we were wanted to reference Appendix B, which is our study of the mock-up of the array, which we're happy to go over. We went up on the roof and confirmed a lot of the measurements that we had for these parapet heights were based off of record documentation. So we went up there and confirmed most of them. Some of them got a little taller, some of them got a little shorter. And so this is updated showing the existing conditions around the building.
Do you have any photographs of the existing temporary arrays?
Yes, I have photographs of the mock-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Towards the end in Appendix B.
And you're going to present those to us?
Yes, sir. Mhm. And then obviously kind of getting back to the overall photovoltaic system and where we're going to be placing the non-fused panel. Again, wants to be at Mellon Hall, located behind the electrical yard that's adjacent to the building, between the building and St. John Street, where they have existing electrical equipment from the switchgear to other miscellaneous components. We're proposing this to be mounted. And then this sheet, again, talking mostly about where we want to be placing our conduit. We've done our best, like I said, to keep the conduit against parapets and areas where they'll be concealed. The conduit themselves is anywhere from about 1 inch in diameter to 2 inches in diameter, depending on what portion of the array that we're talking about. And with the standoffs that we've created, that we're going to be using, they should be much lower than the arrays themselves. And many times we'll travel underneath the array. But where we have to, where we can, we've penetrated the roof to, Mellon Hall has lots of different elevations of their various roofs across the building. We've tried not to traverse those as much as we can. Where we have to, for instance, you can see some of these, like item number 2 on plan number 4. We've identified locations where there are existing access ladders and other assemblies as such, and we'll run the conduit adjacent to that and tuck it up behind that so it looks as though it's part of that construction. So that's it for Mellon Hall. I'm happy to continue to go through the heating plant if you want to get through the entire presentation before questions, or do you want to pause here?
Why don't we pause here because it is becoming rather technical.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, please.
Okay. The heating plant, we have these 2 flat roof areas on either side of the central gable, and we're going to, again, fit out those as much as we can. The deviations you're seeing are a result of trying to get around existing rooftop equipment items. For just as some fun facts and figures, for these two arrays, so we've got 131 panels in total, equaling about 72 kilowatts annually, almost 80,000 kilowatt hours annually, which is equivalent of 123 pounds of CO2 avoided, and can power about 7 single-family homes for a year. This is our study going around the building. Again, only proposing these panels on the flat roof areas. And then these studies have not changed other than the fact that we've removed the flat panel option that we were exploring at the pre-application conference. And again, the height of these parapet walls are substantially taller than at Mellon Hall, and so there should be no opportunity to view this from the grade surrounding the site unless you get up kind of up in adjacent buildings looking down on the building itself. And then here again, talking about the equipment that's going to be utilized for the overall system. Again, that non-fused panel, we're proposing a kind of location somewhere in that blue zone. Been working with St. John's to identify a room to place these inverters in. We believe we found one, and going to be kind of working that out in our final construction drawings. But it should be still within this blue zone here. And again, our conduit routing for this is much simpler. We'll be penetrating into, from the left side of the building, we'll be penetrating into the main body of the building below the parapet, and then routing that across that main room, which contains their boilers, and then down to the inverters on the far right side of the building. And this jumps into our studies. I'll just breeze through these. These we're trying to identify initially our view sheds that were important, we felt were important around the building, and taking some photographs around the building for context. So the first image standing up at that quad, I guess, between McDowell and Randall and Campbell, looking down over top of the lower campus areas. Then coming down the campus, looking at the oblique of Mellon Hall. Then kind of coming around, standing on the far side next to Eaglehart, looking across the lawn. And then kind of turning the corner again, looking down again at that kind of from the further down the lower campus lawn back at the building. Standing at the corner of the building, again, looking at the oblique, and then looking directly down the path at the heating plant. And then we've started to come down St. John Street at image G there. And then swinging around Calvert Street, and then back up St. John Street. And then finally ending at the Greenfield Library, looking out between Humphreys Hall and Packard Carroll. These studies, again, we've left in here, this was our looking at different vantage points from buildings that may have a view that were higher than the surrounding grade, looking down on these buildings. Again, looking at the Fielding Rumor, which originally Randall Hall, at various points there. Looking at McDowell, or from McDowell Hall, at the upper floors of McDowell. At Edensward, which was Campbell Hall, that central image being from kind of on top. I think we're in a stairwell looking down, and then from grade across where the new cafe space is. Obviously, from within Mellon Hall itself, there's views of the rooftop, and then standing on the parking garage from across the street, trying to identify what was visible there. And then lastly, standing in Specter and Gillum Hall.
Parking garage, the only truly public building that overlooks the areas where.
Yeah, the only one I believe the public can get into and look down.
It's public, but you got to go through security. Yeah, so you don't just walk around. Yeah, I was trying to narrow it down.
That was our finding as well. Is when we get on top of the parking garage, there was this large, and I had to stand up there with my hands above to take some photographs.
No, not like people are wondering. You know,
And then this image is just kind of ending our walk around the buildings and showing the two arrays in context to each other and the surrounding site. I did want to note that the combined predicted energy that will be generated from these panels should account for about 5.7% of the total St. John's College campus energy use.
say that one more time.
So the total energy utilization of the overall campus, this will account for about 5.7% of that,
Very good.
based off the record information that we have.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Well, nope. I've got Appendix A real quick, just kind of going through the product information of all the exposed components.
You don't really need to do that for us.
Okay. Oh, did you want to go over the photographs for the
Yes.
the mock-up?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
So that's what I was going to get to, is this Appendix B here. So as was mentioned, we installed a mock-up of the array panels on top of Mellon Hall, being the where we felt that the array would have the most potential for visibility. And we installed we had two different approaches here. So for the majority of these panels that you're seeing in blue and in this kind of purple pink color, we utilized these 9-inch cones. And we, in order to make sure that they stayed on the roof for a long period of time, we had to kind of fasten them to a 2x material.
Mhm.
And a lot of our the interns that we have helping with this, who are here today, helped to actually place these on the roof. So they represent, they're close to the height. The height of the array is actually 9.25 inches. Total, this pushes up to about 10.5 inches, so it's a little bit taller. But we were able to get them kind of positioned at the high points of where the array would be. If you can imagine all these arrays being sloped, we place them kind of and strung a kind of a neon string between all of them. There are certain areas kind of highlighted in orange where we didn't put the mock-up, and the parapets were so high that it wouldn't have been feasible to have seen them from grade. But everywhere else, we've had these components. And like I said, we took two approaches here. Most of the array was these cones. Most of the array mock-up were these cones. You're seeing in Image B. Image A, over top of the art gallery, we actually installed the actual panels that would be utilized in this installation for that small section of array, so that could be seen in context with the existing building. And so these are some photographs taken around from the different vantage points from on top of the roof, so you can see how all that played out.
Those are very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then we ourselves walked around the building and conducted our own visibility kind of review of what was occurring. The zones in orange are the only areas where we found that portions of the array were visible. And they were only visible on top of a bit of it was visible on top of the art gallery, and a little bit was visible on top of or more was visible on top of that kind of square, my mouse here so we can highlight it, that square administrative section. So again, standing from that on top of the main stairs that go between the upper and lower portions of campus, we tried to see some of the enlarged photographs there. In terms on the far left, this is what you're seeing in terms of the lower far left, the array cones that you can see visible on top of that administrative portion of the building. The middle bottom image is what was installed on top of the art gallery, and there you're seeing kind of a little bit of the array panels. So you can kind of compare what the actual array would look like against these cones, which are obviously a lot higher, more visible due to their nature.
Yeah, say so.
Coming down the stairs and kind of looking at the oblique again, looking on top of that administrative portion of the building, there's the tips of the cones there. Again, that would be lower a little bit due to the fact that we're a bit higher than the actual arrays would be. And then here we started in image 3, kind of back towards where the newly renovated Campbell or Edensward Hall was, kind of looking through that entrance canopy at Mellon down over top of the terrace. And so again, the tops of the cones are visible as you stand that far back, and as you get up underneath that canopy. But then as you get down onto the terrace, it appeared that they were then obscured by the adjacent space. Standing across the field over by the Eaglehart Gym, again, the arrays become visible as you stand further out. As you get closer and closer towards the planetarium, they begin to become less and less visible. I think it's closer and closer to the building you get. And so here we're trying to, at some point they become almost invisible. As you get, again, near the building, and kind of, I guess we're kind of image 7 there is, I guess, against the Fielding Ramore or Randall Hall edge, and then kind of just behind the stairs going between the upper and lower campus. We got heavy tree cover there. And then as we get closer towards the building, in image 8 and 9, the adjacent undulations of the building form obscure the arrays. And then certainly as we wrap around the oblique on the other side in image 10 there, none of the mock-up was visible. And image 11. And then image 12, 13, and 14 are standing at various points along St. John's, Calvert, and Calvert Streets, where the array was not visible. And then we actually went inside the courtyard space as well to see what was visible there. None of the array appeared to be visible from within the courtyard. And then that's the top image is kind of turning around and looking at the taller roof behind there within the courtyard. And again, that array was not visible. And then certainly standing further back in image 17 and 18 towards the interior of campus, again, those arrays were not visible, and most of that roof was obscured by the tree coverage as well. Then that concludes our presentation.
Well, thank you for taking the time to put up all those cones, take those photographs.
Absolutely.
That, of course, as you know from our pre-app, is some of our major concern is about how here around the adjoining. So, any questions at this point for the applicant?
Is there any hesitation on the condition that staff had put in on the privacy screening on one of the locations?
No, I don't think so. I think installing the array and kind of seeing what it does in terms of its impact, and then making a judgment call at that point seems like a fair idea.
Eric?
No comments.
John, want to make your staff report?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, excellent package.
Thank you.
Excellent plans. Excellent presentation. I only wish that all of them were as thorough as this. Really fine work. Secondly, it's always a pleasure to work with you. And third, one of the really fun things about looking at a project like this is I get to do a bit of a dive into Neutra. And there's, quite a bit written about him, a famously difficult person. But one of the things that he talked about at different times was his embrace of technology, that he would embrace new technology. And I think that this really works with what he would probably think was a good idea for the use of technology on one of his buildings. From the staff report, there is a single condition that you and I discussed on site.
Yep.
And it may not even be necessary to screen it. You could see tiny little edges of the panels over the Mitchell Gallery. but it was really almost imperceptible. I will say, and she will go nameless, a commissioner told me that she went and looked and saw nothing. So it's really not a strong view. But because this is such an important building, if screening is necessary, I like the fact that it's a condition that you would work with staff and the commission on.
Absolutely.
And really, that's it. It's all thumbs up. This is a good use of some mighty dead roof space that would just be getting hot in the summer. So
While preserving the historical integrity of the
Right.
building.
exactly.
Would you briefly enumerate the sections of the code and guidelines that you closely examined, just for the record?
Well, to a degree, this was there was some redundancy here because I think Jim cited everything in the first 20 pages of your application. But I looked at more basic approaches for using the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for rehabilitation, and so the SOI number 2, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alterations of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. And of course, this is compliant with that. Secondly, exterior alterations. This is Secretary of the Interior standard number 9. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing size scale and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Again, consistent. And then number 10 of the Secretary of the Interior standards, new construction. New construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. So in terms of the attachment of the solar array, it really has a minimal impact on the building. And that's, again, excellent design. So
Okay.
I gave it a big thumbs up with one condition.
Yes, and a very important condition. Just for the sake really of clarification and one for possible future reference and use, everything that the applicant presented is in paper and electronic form maintained in your office as part of the permanent record.
I am not sure how long we maintain paper copies at this point.
But the presentation, electronic disc or whatever
Well,
form it's in.
yes, there is an Energov using our permitting system.
So
That
we don't have to go
application is digitally recorded.
So we don't have to go through that process as we did for so many years of taking paper from the applicant at the meeting and saying, very preserve this for the record.
Yes,
Right.
it's
Okay.
there's an application and it has all of this information
Good.
in it.
Good. And any member of the public can review that at any time they wish.
It's publicly accessible.
Okay. And then the final thing is, if someone were to ask one of us, what would be a good example of how a historic building can be readapted for these purposes, that is energy savings production, would this be something you would refer people to take a look at?
I'm from many years of design experience, preservation experience, construction experience. I am looking at this as a strongly positive addition for alternative energy. Of course, we have a huge solar array on the garage right behind us that
Yeah.
I think no one notices anymore, but
People don't know
it's-
it's there.
right, is mighty handy for shade if you want to park on the 5th floor.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do the other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Tower? Okay. Okay. Please.
It's a curiosity question. How many interns were used on the roof?
You guys read through 5. Yeah.
5, only 5.
Only
Okay.
5.
You guys did well. It reminds me of things I had to do.
He's going to offer you a job. Oh, no, I can't speak. Okay. Well, is there any member of the public who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Okay, please give your name clearly so the secretary can record it, and then make your comment.
Hi, my name is Thomas Vollum. I'm an intern on the installation. I'm working on the St. John's Campus Clean Energy Master Plan, and I'm a student at the college. And I just wanted to say, as a community with a lot of students from parts of the world that are impacted by the climate crisis and all that, it's really important to us to be taking concrete action to improve our role as an institution. And I think this is a really great example of that. And I think also our campus's historical beauty and significance is a really big point of pride for pretty much everybody at the college. And we're really happy with this project and with the team that's working on it. And we think we really, as an intern who's had the opportunity to work, be in meetings with these people and really go hand in hand with them as they have been going through this process with you and with the college, I can say that it's really a team that I trust to handle the historical elements conscientiously. And so, yeah, I support it.
Okay, thank you. Before you leave,
Oh, yes. V as in Victor, OLLU, M as in Mike. 133 Main Street, Annapolis, Maryland.
and then one very important thing, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you just presented was true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Okay. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and begin deliberations by the commission. Who wants to speak first? Eric, I see you. Oh, okay. You moved. You flinched. So, Kim? Okay. Well, I think this really dots all the I's and crosses all the T's. You had a good work session. You listened to our concerns. You addressed those concerns, illustrated all of that work that you had done, and allayed our concerns. And I think I would accept a motion to recommend approval of to grant approval of this project with the conditions noted in the staff report.
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a application for 60 College. Oh, excuse me, that's you guys. 25 Pinckney Street, Grady Reader Spire Architecture, constructor. Okay, very good.
Name's Kurt Shepard, Principal Spire Architecture.
Okay, please have a seat.
If you have a way for a screen share on an Apple device, I can present documents. Okay. It does not. It's an iPad, not a.
Do you have any paper documents?
I did not bring paper copies with me. I would be able to get a connection.
You have a flash drive.
I have the report here. I can maybe email it to you if you log in your email. Or you can probably access it yourself on that computer.
I can access the Dropbox if I can get to that.
Oh, should
Okay.
yeah, shouldn't you be able to get?
There's a chance that TV allows for screencasting, but the email, the Dropbox computer might be easier.
Well, the screencast, what I'm getting here on a screencast is Screen Mirror. The one that's available says conference room. I mean, I can. It's looking for a on-screen code from conference room. So I'm going to assume that that's not it. Email's going to be best.
So he could probably log in Dropbox.
Yep, that's probably the best way. Let's see here. I know you said this previously for login.
Also, out of curiosity, given that the presentation's on file, members can say they looked at it and given staff report, if he cannot access, do we need to have him present?
There's one member of the public. If she wants to speak, and if any comment came, and I think John said that no comment has come on this matter, then we could put it on the consent docket and avoid.
Are you speaking on, are you providing comments on this?
Would you like me to?
No.
No.
Okay. Then seeing that there is no public comment on this matter, it seems to qualify for the consent docket.
I would agree.
Yes. Do all the commissioners agree?
Yep.
With
Yeah,
with
okay,
one comment.
Go ahead.
And that one comment was, it came up in the course of revisions. that-
Correspondence and whatnot.
Yeah, there was a possibility or at least a consideration for using asphalt shingle.
There was a request by the homeowner, yes.
Right.
As a
And
cost
I'm-
implication.
I'm going to oppose that.
That was
for
my
this
understanding
approval.
from the staff report.
Right.
correct.
And I would-
and email.
Right. I mean, you've got 6 row houses with standing seam
Correct.
metal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We made the request, or at least floated the request at the behest of the homeowner, and I got the looking for just kind of what the affirmative response or negative response.
Is the homeowner like opposed to sticking with metal roof?
It's not that he's opposed to sticking the metal roof. It's a cost issue right now, and so there may be a question from him later. But he is, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do.
Okay.
Well, at least in this application.
In this
that's
application,
what's
correct.
there.
Yes, that's what's in the application.
Yeah.
Then,
Okay.
I mean, unless there's anything else, I'd say I move to approve the application.
Wait.
So,
Have to put it on the consent agenda.
okay.
You want to move to put it on the consent
Sure. I
agenda?
move to put it on the consent docket or agenda.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, now we can accept a motion to recommend, to approve this project, this application.
Move to approve project as presented at per staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thanks for sitting through the
Well,
other
good
presentation.
luck with it. Oh, yeah. At least you've got this. At least you've got this. Pinckney Street closes every day. Pinckney Street closes to traffic, through traffic on a daily basis. Well, that's huge.
It's getting to be more and more of an issue, and I don't really know how to address it. I think John would have to address it within the city.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I mean, it was just lucky that we didn't really need to scrutinize this.
So what's the way in which we do this so that the public is made aware and
I would put
complies
them in touch with IT.
whenever you receive an application?
Yeah, and well, as we get closer,
Yeah.
within 2 weeks of the meeting, coordinate with IT as to what
Yeah.
devices are going to correspond to the technology that we have here.
Yep.
Well, is that
Okay.
that's our computer? Cities.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So why can't the submitters submit so that it's loaded and ready to go?
Well, actually, I could probably dig up the staff report and the application.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But
Well, they
But-
submit like
right. Exactly. But I would be digging,
Yeah.
and I'm a real technological whiz. That's why I like brick, mortar, wood, metal, stone.
Well, I do think that we have to address this because it will be, in the long run, more convenient for applicants and for us and for you. Okay?
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
So you and I can talk about it.
yeah,
how
but
to
in the
implement
interest
it,
of
but that's-
time, most importantly.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I guess that would come under administrative business. Is there any other business, John?
Well, yes. I have one person who is talking about submitting an application for a reasonably new building on Cathedral Street. It has it's a commercial building, office space. It has vertical siding, and it has a knee wall. It has wood windows, and the proposal, which I'm trying to make a decision about whether it can be reviewed administratively or if it has to come to public hearing. So the knee wall in the front is proposed to be removed. It's a stylistic change. The direction of the wood siding is going to change also. And there is a strong desire to put aluminum clad windows on the building. And I thought, okay, because it is a 1980s building, it might be a possibility, because maybe it has aluminum windows. But they do exist. Clad windows do exist in the historic district for some of the newer buildings. The wood windows on the front facade, I think, can be restored, so it's not an issue. What I have said to the representative for the building is, it is very easy to look at a 1982 Buick LeSabre going down the street and say, that is really not a good-looking car. But
Yeah, that's a subjective opinion.
well, I mean, absolutely, it is subjective.
But does it
And
conform
that is
with the
exactly my
standards?
point. It is a design. What you're looking at is a design of an automobile. In this case, you're looking at, a 1985, the equivalent of a 1985 Buick LeSabre. And the question is, though, when you change the siding, the direction of the siding, the appearance of the siding, do you change the character of a non-contributing building? What happens there? And it's too new to really be significant. I don't think there's any recordation of the architect who did it. And we're certainly not talking about Richard Neutra here. And so the more I think about it, the more I think, okay, well, it seems to me that these issues might be best considered by the commission as opposed to me individually as staff.
It sounds to me that it would be interesting and useful for the commissioner to review it, because it is something that eventually will come up again. And, we're getting to that, it's a moving target, what's significant and what's not. So better for us I'd be happy to take my time to look at it. So I think you should bring it to us,
Okay, I will let him know.
at least for a work session. You can ask them to come in and explain what they're doing, and we can have some input. Okay. Anything else?
Let's see. I am hoping that my assistant will start sometime soon, so we can do things like update the HPC website and work on some reports that are starting to become overdue. I will say that, and everyone should know this, the number of applications right now for this year is going to, if it keeps on pace with where it currently is, will top 300, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That means you basically have 1.5 coming in every business day.
Yeah.
Some of them are simple, some of them are complicated. So this is a big year, and it doesn't really look like a tremendous amount is going on in the historic district, and yet there is. Shops are changing hands. Whole buildings are being renovated. All around us.
I guess that's a good thing.
Well, it is. We have to stay current.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to discuss this evening? Any other business commissioners would like to bring up?
I
Okay.
realized the minutes was sent to us via email, and I put it in that folder. It wasn't a shared folder. Not that changes anything, but
Okay. Well, we'll get to it at the meeting, the administrative meeting at the end of the month. Okay. Well, it looks like I know at least one commissioner. Let me do this. I think that if anybody has a reason that they need to depart now before the meeting adjourns, that's acceptable to the chair.
move to adjourn.
No, wait. No, I'm just saying that. You want to catch your plane?
Wait, do we have more?
What's up?
I think he was trying to make a joke.
No. John raised his hand as though he wanted
I
to
have the most minor issue, and that is that we have a pretty big agenda for the next meeting, including 2 trailers for City Dock.
You
that are
mean
going
for
to be
the
there
July meeting?
For the July meeting,
Yeah.
yes, for our next public hearing meeting.
What's the
Going to
date?
try to streamline everything as much as possible so that we can get through it in a timely fashion.
Okay.
I would definitely say whatever has a possibility of going on consent docket with 7 applicants.
That's July 8th.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Should. So
Is that in
very,
person?
yes. So, very, very important to.
Oh,
So can we do this as a hybrid meeting?
well, I think we can always do that. You and I should discuss this
Okay.
further.
Okay.
Okay, so-
Well, that was it. It was just, it's.
Yeah,
it's
but everybody's
coming.
on notice.
I want everyone to be ready.
Okay. So that. Yeah, I'm afraid to look, but
I mean, we're talking about our vacation time and conference.
I know there's something.
Okay.
And
But we could probably figure this out over email.
yes,
and stuff,
yeah, we
too.
can
I don't
figure
know that
this
we
out
need to have
over
this
email.
conversation online with everyone. That's what I'm speaking to. Can we please adjourn the meeting, sir?
Move
Because
to
I don't
adjourn.
think that everyone needs
adjourn.
to
Is there a
hear our
second?
vacation plans.
There's a
and
motion on
dates.
the floor to adjourn. Is there a second to
Second,
that motion?
yes.
All in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Meeting adjourned.